Hey, BillO'Reilly.com premium members, welcome to the No Spin News, Wednesday, March 20th, 2019. Take your country back. Hey, I appreciate all the nice stuff you guys posted on the message boards and all the nice emails about the new format. We have a final word now on the program. We have a pretty interesting one today. And I'm glad you're enjoying it. Again, if you have any criticism or anything we can do better, let us know. Lead story, culture war and how it will affect the upcoming vote in 2020 for president. So I put together in my mind 6 culture war items that I feel are going to be in big play between Donald Trump and whoever he runs against. Okay? First one is no due process. That these movements, Me Too, believe the victims, believe the survivors, all of this, and their far left acolytes have basically said to the nation, accusations now are convictions. And we don't want to hear anything else about it. So Judge Kavanaugh was guilty, should not be serving on the Supreme Court, and that's it. Okay, once you get due process eliminated from our society, the notion and concept of justice flies right out the window with it. Because people will lie for a number of reasons, primarily money. And they will lie a lot. Ideology is number 2. So that's number 1. PC culture. We saw it yesterday with Beto O'Rourke telling a very gentle joke about his wife doing most of the heavy lifting, raising the kids, and immediately had to apologize because some nut objected to him saying that. There was nothing wrong with what he said. It was actually a human jest. I actually liked O'Rourke for saying it. And then all of a sudden he's apologizing. You know, I'm sitting there thinking, is this the guy we want to negotiate with the Chinese? This guy? O'Rourke, who can tell a joke that's absolutely cute and funny and affectionate, and he got to apologize for it? And then he goes, well, I'll never do that again. I'll be much more sensitive. Hey, you know, if I wanted Alan Alda as president, I would have gone out to Eastern Long Island where he lives and urged him to run. I don't. All right, the third one is stacking the Supreme Court. Now, the far left doesn't like it because they don't have a majority on the 9 in the Supreme Court. Now they want to put 20 or 30. That could happen. What a disaster that would be. Because the Supreme Court is the body, all right, that makes sure there isn't an abuse of power here on the part of the politicians. So that's going to be big. Eliminating the Electoral College. Far left wants to do that. So California, New York, Illinois, and a handful of other states can dominate the entire presidency because they have so many people. We become then an urban nation. But you guys in Oklahoma and Idaho and New Mexico, you don't matter. Mississippi, Kentucky, you don't matter. West Virginia, nope. The big urban centers matter. That's it. Dangerous. Ultra dangerous. Unfettered abortion. Aborting a fetus at any time, for any reason, even after it is birthed. That's Nazi stuff. And finally, the legalization of marijuana. We will get to that later on in this program, which I tell you, kids using marijuana, children, is tremendously harmful to them. So we as a society are basically saying we're going to legalize another substance in addition to alcohol that's going to hurt every child who uses it. That make sense to you? All right, Ted Koppel. You may remember I had Koppel on the Factor. I'm going to pull that soundbite tomorrow, you guys. I forgot about it this morning in our meeting. Pull a Koppel soundbite when he was on with me and said I ruined American journalism. It's a great soundbite. And we'll play that for you tomorrow. Anyway, now he's saying at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, a very liberal forum, that the Washington Post and New York Times are out to get Trump, and it's wrong, and it's a violation of journalistic ethics. Roll Koppel.
I'm terribly concerned that when you talk about the New York Times these days, when you talk about the Washington Post these days, we're not talking about the New York Times of 50 years ago. We are not talking about the Washington Post of 50 years ago. We're talking about organizations that I believe have, in fact, decided as organizations that Donald J. Trump is bad for the United States. But the notion that most of us look upon Donald Trump as being an absolute fiasco, he's not mistaken in that perception, and he's not mistaken when so many of the liberal media, for example, describe themselves as belonging to the resistance. What does that mean?
Well, that means they're not going to report accurately about President Trump. Now, look, I'm in the best position in this country to know what I just told you is true and what Mr. Koppel is saying is true. I am researching a history book on Donald Trump, as you know, called The United States of Trump. All right? 90% of the research given to me, and I have the best researchers in the world, is false or out of context, grossly out of context. 90% of it, of what has been written and reported about Donald Trump from the time he was in military school. It is staggering. And I have to just discard all of that and start from scratch by actually talking to the people who were there in whatever I'm writing about, which I'm doing. Now, Koppel was a straight newsman on Nightline. Stone-faced interview. It was a good interview, not a great interview. It wasn't Mike Wallace, but it was good. He was perceived to be left, but I don't know whether that was fair. I know him, and he is a liberal guy, but not crazy liberal. Okay? So when he goes after the New York Times and the Washington Post, that matters to those people. And Lara Logan, of course, last week did the same thing. Now, the guy who was interviewing Ted Koppel at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace is Marvin Kalb, who is my old professor at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. He actually graded me, did Mr. Kalb. I called him professor. Now, he's very left, and he's a former CBS correspondent. Now, he will tell you that his reportage was never influenced by his liberal stance, his liberal belief system, and to some extent that's true. He and his brother Bernard Kalb, they had a pretty good reputation. But here's what Kalb said to Koppel after Koppel made that stunning comment. Go.
A great deal of the reason why the press is writing all of these negative stories about Trump is that he deserves it. He deserves it in the sense that he has committed a whole series of actions before he was president and now that are first now beginning to be investigated in a very serious way.
Well, then report on the investigation, okay? Don't use anonymous sources. Don't editorialize in hard news coverage. Don't ignore stories that exonerate the president. I mean, when was the last time you saw on the front page of any newspaper a story about African Americans having the most opportunity economically they've ever had in history? Dr. Kalb, Professor Kalb, he's not a doctor, Professor Kalb, when was the last time that story appeared? The answer is never. It's not about Trump and what Trump says or might have done. It's about a balance of coverage of what is happening, actually happening. Professor Kalb, you flunk in your response to Koppel. We've had Dr. Paul Levinson on before. He's a good guest. He teaches communications and media studies at Fordham University, a fine school in the Bronx. He's the author of Fake News in Real Context. That book came out in 2017. You might check it out. And what'd you think of Koppel? That surprised you, what he said?
Yeah, it did surprise me a little because he only told half the story. The other half of the story is that the media report daily that Trump calls them, the media, the enemy of the people. In fact, just the other day he said the media are the absolute enemy of the people. That includes, by the way, Saturday Night Live, the New York Times, the whole enchilada. And frankly, if somebody were denouncing me as an enemy of the people, I would be all set to do anything I could to undermine and attack that person. If I see someone standing outside of my home with a bunch of matches and kerosene, I'm just not going to sit there and wait until they set my house on fire. I'm going to go out and confront that person.
All right,
And that's what the media are doing.
Doctor, who was first in this? I mean,
Who's
you're having Trump label the media fake news because he is in a battle for the hearts and minds of the American people with the press. But who started the fracas? You're making it seem like Trump started the fracas. I don't believe that's true, is it?
Yeah, it is true. It started in January 2017, before Trump was inaugurated. He's conducting a press conference from Trump Tower in New York City, and Jim Acosta raises his hand. And rather than Trump calling on him, even for just a brief comment, instead, Trump gives Acosta a lecture saying, I'm not calling on you. You're part of CNN. You're fake news.
And what was CNN doing before Acosta was that confrontation to set Trump off? Look,
CNN
from my research,
reporting.
I'll tell you a little bit of my research, and you can tell me. So,
Okay.
in the beginning, I did the first interview with Donald Trump when he announced for president. All right? June 2015. All right? First one. Trump, at that point, loved the media. Loved it. And was manipulating the media far better than any of his rivals were. And that's why he got the nomination, because he used the media, who were more than happy to broadcast his rallies, to put him on every time he wanted to come on, because he got big ratings. Every time Trump came on, television went crazy, and they got big ratings. So he was everywhere. Trump loved the media then. But then, in the election of November 2016, Trump shocked the media that thought he was going to lose, and he won. And as soon as he won, it turned around. The media went after him. Started with Russian collusion, okay? And then on and on and on. That's when Trump turned and said, this is not fair, it's fake, and all of that. Am I wrong in that narrative right there?
Yes, and here's why. Because the media always go after the president and anyone who is in political power. That's their job. Their job is to be a watchdog on behalf of the American people and to report as fully as possible about what people in power, especially the president, are doing. Now, maybe back in the early 1960s, when the media were in love with John F. Kennedy, they didn't do that all that much. But anyone who remembers the kind of press coverage that Bill Clinton got, that George W. Bush got, that even Barack Obama got.
Obama had a honeymoon. There's a so-called
Right.
saying in the journalism industry, there's a honeymoon period from when a president is elected to after he's inaugurated. There's a honeymoon period. Barack Obama got it because the
Not
press,
from Fox.
they, well,
He got
Fox,
it. He didn't get
Fox
it from conservative
Fox comprises about 15% of the national media output, if you look at their numbers. So it's 85 against 15. And talk radio also tilts in Donald Trump's favor. So you can add that on. But there was no honeymoon period. It went right into, well, the election's a fraud because Putin and his guys came in. Now, we're going to see in the next week or so whether that narrative is true or not, because the Mueller report will come out. But what I'm trying to tell you is that the media was the one that started the fake news controversy by its unrelenting attacks on Trump before he even got into the Oval Office, Professor. And that's documented fact.
Barack Obama never once called Fox News fake news.
No, but he criticized us pretty hard.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That's
Yeah,
what
I didn't
should
mind.
be the case. I know, but what Trump does is he's taken it to a whole new level. And by the way, let me just push back on a point you made earlier. I've seen in the New York Times and the Washington Post over and over again that say what Michael Cohen said in no way pointed to Russian collusion. So the media are reporting that
Well,
correctly.
not in any meaningful way, though. Look, when I see the
Yeah.
headline, Trump economy benefits Black Americans and Hispanic Americans on the front page of the Washington Post or the New York Times, then I'll see that they're at least trying to be balanced, but now they're not. Last word.
Well, because the media are making a decision. And when they see Trump doing what he's doing at the southern border, when they hear Trump, as we've just heard him, attack John McCain, who's been dead for 7 months.
But you know
all the
why he
various-
did that, right?
But it still was an
No,
horrendous.
but Professor, why did
Yeah.
Trump attack John McCain? Why?
Because Trump was aggravated that McCain voted thumbs down
No.
on Obamacare.
That's not why. This latest round, I agree with you,
Yeah.
it's foolish, but this latest round, Professor, and you should know this for your students, is because now we know from congressional testimony that John McCain was the man who took the phony dossier, which had all kinds of unverified terrible things about Trump, and gave it to the media and to the FBI. It was him. He did it. That's what launched Trump.
Maybe. By the way, he did it after the election. So
That's congressional testimony under oath. So you can't just go maybe. It's a matter of record. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Thanks for the great debate. We really appreciate your time. I know you're very busy up there in the Bronx. Say hello to everybody up at Fordham for me, please.
I will. Take care.
All right. And that segues perfectly into the Trump versus McCain update. Look, nobody wins. You know, I know the president's livid that John McCain gave this dossier out, and Senator McCain should not have done it. But enough already. All right, Senator McCain is dead. AP, totally speculation. Their headline is Republicans increasingly optimistic that Mueller will show no collusion. I read the article, anonymous sources all over the place. White House officials and presidential confidants who spoke on condition of anonymity say that they don't think there's any Russian collusion in the report. I have no blanket idea what's in the report, and I would never run a piece like that. It's actually favorable to Donald Trump, but it shouldn't run. Shouldn't run. You may have noticed we got a fair amount of attention for the announcement yesterday of the Trump history book, The United States of Trump, How the President Really Sees America. And the AP issued a press release that was pretty interesting. It said, quote, Henry Holt and Company announced Tuesday that O'Reilly's The United States of Trump will come out this fall. The publisher is calling the book a nonpartisan and well-rounded take on Trump. O'Reilly, the former Fox host and longtime conservative, is promising no anonymous sources and no spin. Now, longtime conservative? I'm not associated with one conservative movement in this country and never have been. I'm a registered independent. Yes, some of my views are conservative. I'm a traditional guy. Longtime conservative? It's like I'm William F. Buckley. I write for, come on. But they did this, this is the Associated Press, because they don't want you to believe it's a nonpartisan, well-rounded book. Oh, he's a longtime conservative. All of this is subtle. I appreciate the AP even mentioning it. They used the book cover, which is posted on BillO'Reilly.com. All right, there's a poll out that 17% of Americans think it's a good idea to lower the voting age to 16. So 83% of us say, that's not so good. Why? Because 16-year-olds are not qualified intellectually, many of them, to make a decision that important. That's why. But I'm just amused. Here are some of the people, 125 Democrats and 1 Republican in the House of Representatives believe it's a good idea to lower the voting age to 16. The 1 Republican is Michael Burgess of Texas. All right? Of course, Congresswoman Cortez supports it, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Omar, the usual far, far left bomb throwers. Adam Schiff, Maxine Waters, the whole crew. Yeah, let's go. How about 10? Now, all of this is because younger people in America tend to be more liberal. I mean, it's always been that way. And then when you wise up a little bit, you become more traditional, that you understand the tenets of the country as it was founded have led to unbelievable prosperity. When you are able to formulate that view by reading and going to school and learning about your country. It's just unbelievable. On that note, most younger Americans want marijuana legalized. All right. And it is being legalized all over the place. But a new study just out by King's College in London, very good college, as you may know, I studied in London for a year, analyzed data from 11 sites across Europe and Brazil. They found daily marijuana use was more common among people with psychosis. What's psychosis? Psychosis is a mental state where you are delusional, that you don't know what's real and what isn't real. That's psychosis. So if you are a heavy marijuana user, a daily, you are more susceptible to being psychotic. So let's put it all in 7-Eleven. Yeah. Look, it comes down to this. There isn't one benefit for American children in legalizing marijuana. Not one. Any child that uses the drug marijuana will be harmed. That's a fact. Their childhood is gone. Once you introduce intoxication, inebriation into a child's mind, the damage is severe. All you need to know about we're going to have the final thought in a moment. 20% off premium members, 40% off concierge members, all our stuff, including books. Come on. You can pre-order The United States of Trump. Thousands of people have already done it. You'll get it first. Word of the day when writing to us, do not be meretricious. 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 Final thought of the day, it's spring. First day of spring, yes. Spring is good, right? Now, if you live in International Falls, Minnesota, you'll get around to spring in about 2 months. But throughout much of the nation, temperatures are moderating, flowers are coming up. Now, this is going to sound weird, but it's true. I never was a garden guy. Topsoil, no. Okay? But recently, I'd say in the last 5 years, I've begun to appreciate the art of nice garden, nice lawn. It just calms me down. And I hire people to do it. I don't do it because I can't do that stuff. But I like it. And for you guys who do garden and get involved with it, it's therapy. It's good. It's good for your mental health. So a friend of mine just started a website that I think you're going to like. It's called flowerpowerwithjill.com. Flower Power, easy to remember, with Jill.com. Okay, go there. This is fun. And if you're into the nature business here, you like it. And it's good for you. It's good for me. Good for everybody. Thanks for watching this evening. We'll see you again tomorrow.